if I can't buy videos, then we can do some live
classroom.
Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking the
I
video
think we could probably do video.
would be a sure bet in terms of time, whereas in the classroom
You don't know how long you're going to have to be there before you see
see
something.
something.
Yeah. Unless you go to cleanup time.
Or breakfast.
Breakfast, yeah. All right.
Usually those transitions in cleaning.
Right.
Yes. Yes. All right. And the other thing I'm just going to throw out there really quick, which you're probably knowing, but one of the things that Cindy and I were talking about that really, as I was planning these are really intended for kids who are really at the super top of this pyramid, who are kind of, you're thinking about needing an RTI process for, and really we don't have anyone who's at that really intense level. They're all kind of a more middle of the road level, but we're still using them to practice this, even though they technically probably don't need, this child doesn't really probably need the RTI or to be referred to BOCES for behavioral problems or something, but it's giving me a lot of experience in using this.
Yeah, and sometimes you think that a child is up here, and then once you collect the data, you find out, no, they're really here.
And once I just do a couple of those extra targeted supports, that's all they really needed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what we're kind of looking at. And all you have to do is show up, my darling.
Okay, I'll be back.
Have a notebook if you want to take notes or something like that. And what I would like to do is, I'd like to take you to lunch, so I'll talk with
Ooh, that's a bonus.
Mary and I'll talk with Mary and Evelyn and make sure that that's all covered and stuff. So if you don't have any other lunch plans tomorrow, I'll do that and make sure that you're not penalized if we end up going over or something, because it's a coaching activity to make sure that's all covered. All right.
And a question for both of you is, how do you think this learning activity will support inclusion of all children here at Children's Garden?
Inclusion, meeting.
So how is it going to make sure it's reaching every single child? Or, in other words, you're not leaving any child out, which is what inclusion is. So for instance, let's say there was a child who had special needs, maybe a child who was in a wheelchair, or...
How could this help support a kid with who's in a wheelchair, or how could it support a kid who has autism? How could it support a kid who's an English language learner and is very limited English? Those kinds of things.
Do you think that this would leave any children out, or it could be used for every child?
I guess there's probably use with every child that would, and also probably with the ones who wouldn't, just because it helps you know whenever if there's like any behavioral things the kids will kind of know when not to kind of get too close to another child.
Yeah, they get nervous about each other because of their behaviors. And my hope is that, because I have to answer this question on every single one of these, no, I'm just saying in every single one of these circuits, so we have thought about this and talked about this a lot. And one of the things about these sheets in particular, not only are they almost like a tool for how am I going to help this kid who everybody's scared of be included. And this is a really good way to help them, to help you help them to learn how to be included. If you can figure out why they're doing these behaviors, then you can take that first step to helping them learn a different behavior to do instead, which will then help them to be included in those social parameters and stuff where other kids are so scared of them. And the other thing that you'll see tomorrow is that they really can be individualized for every single kid. And one of the other things that I talked about was, we're talking about kind of that teaming idea and how important it is to have teaming, and especially if there's a kid who really is in that top extensive part, who comes in BOCES with like autism or Down syndrome, those kinds of things. I just found how invaluable it's been to be able to talk with Deb, who, oh my gosh, I'm so glad we have Deb Huss, because she's so wonderful to work with, and to say, is this normal for this disability? Because we were talking about, seeing, is this really a challenging behavior, or is this their disability? Am I getting angry at them because they're kicking things, when really it's that their disability is that they can't get their foot up, or they don't know that their foot is going over to the side. It's a muscle twitch. And I'm like, stop kicking people, and they can't help it, like Tourette's or something, Is it bad language, challenging behavior, or is it Tourette's? Is it normal for them, to just throw out things and they really can't help it, Can they... hand flapping was always what I thought about, that for some kids that's a challenging behavior because they're being very disruptive and distracting, but for some kids with certain disabilities, that's going to be normal behavior. So definitely the finding out what's normal, and that's where you kind of need that team and some of that other expertise to help you with what really is normal, to help identify what really are the challenging behaviors that we can focus on.
Right. And so to wrap this up, unless you have any questions or concerns, to wrap this up, bottom line is we know that this learning activity, as well as any other learning activities through Pyramid Plus, will support inclusion of all children, because the resources like these tools for collecting data on challenging behavior, as an example, and the research that's found in Pyramid Plus approach and any other evidence-based practices is, what's critical to this Pyramid Plus approach. And so we know that because of that, it will be inclusive of all children. Any questions about that? All right. Well, I hope you enjoy your activity tomorrow, and I'm excited to hear about it on, I think it's Monday.
Monday, and you're here on Monday, right? Yes. Not taking off any time next week.
And I think we're meeting at 9, if I remember right. Let me check that date.
I don't remember. We can do a time that'll work. That'll work for you. So maybe like
Thanks, Letty.
we might want to wait till like Louisa gets here.